Right guys, welcome down to Tech Tuesday, your weekly look at everything tech within golf, and there is a lot to talk about this week. So I'm going to tie up a few loose ends from the new TaylorMade M1, M2 launch. There's already been a lot of coverage on this, but there's a couple of little things I probably just need to drop in there. We're going to be having a little bit more of a closer look at the golf balls that TaylorMade released, because out of everything that they did, those are possibly the biggest claims that they are making surrounding the TP5 ball. We're also going to be looking at a 6-piece ball which have been sent through, and we're going to be having a look at a possible crisis which would engulf one of the major retailers but also green grass professionals within the next year. So first of all, I was over in Miami last week. Time goes very quickly, testing out the new M1 and the new M2 products. And this launch of new gear really does seem to have divided opinion so much. There's a lot of people showing genuine, like gut felt anger over this launch. Like real spit flying from mouth annoyance. When I was testing everything out, I couldn't see a massive difference between them. So M2 versus M2, M1 versus M1 when in exactly the same settings. The one difference which I found, well, you can really see that if you hop over to my fitting video between my current M2 and the new M1 440. That video really highlighted how it can affect individual players within their games. Just be aware that that video is not a direct comparison between M1, M1, M2, M2. It's all around my game and how fitting can make a difference to an individual player. You know, as someone who looks at golf clubs pretty much every day, gets to hit so many different golf clubs, which I feel very lucky about, I can be in a position here to describe what I'm feeling with the clubs and what you should be expecting with the clubs. But there's no way to know until you try them yourselves. So what I would always suggest is when the new M1, when the new M2 stuff comes out, test it and test it against your current driver to see if you will gain any improvement. If you don't, then you don't need to get it. So hopefully that ties up any loose ends from my end. Nothing to do with any of this, but I did get these through today. These are the Pro SLs from FootJoy. They got a little bit of a boa on the back, and I'll be testing these out within the next week. Hopefully getting some very interesting videos to you over on shoe fitting as well, which is an avenue I've never been down before. Obviously I get shoes which fit, but an actual fitting to a performance, yeah, that's new. Really slick intro to a video there, that wasn't it? I'll be doing some videos on Shift Up. So when I was over in Miami, TaylorMade did a slightly odd thing, which was they started talking about the golf ball, the new golf ball first, before any of the products. It's almost like they were trying to stick this on centre stage, and they were making some pretty damn big claims about it as well. So this is the TP5, well this is the TP5X, there's going to be a 5 and an X, and as you might imagine with that setup, it's a direct competitor to the Pro V1 and the Pro VX. But not only is it a direct competitor, TaylorMade went out of their way when they were making claims about this ball to really set it against the Pro V and say, listen, this is what the Pro V does with the testing that we've done with it, and this ball, they were saying that this ball is better in pretty much every single way than the Pro V. So TaylorMade were basically saying that because this is a 5-layer ball with a new core construction, when you hit it harder it will spin less, it will go further, and when you put a little bit less speed into it with softer shots, it will spin more around the greens. Now these are claims which have been made before, but TaylorMade really went out of the way to make sure that people understood that this would be better than the Pro V. Now if that's true or not, I simply don't know, and it's time to really test it. Because when someone goes all out like TaylorMade did, really making these big claims that they did, you know, it warrants your attention in a way that maybe it otherwise wouldn't. And the reason for that is TaylorMade make big claims about their products, but this was a little bit different. They made big claims and they backed it up with a hell of a lot of numbers. Now when someone does that, I think that they're pretty confident that this actually is, you know, the nuts. They really do think that this can be a challenger. Now I have had a little bit of a test out with these balls when over in Florida, and You know what? They were pretty good out on the course, I have to say, but it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult for normal players to actually test out how good a golf ball is. Unless you've got a robot and you can hit lots of shots and recreate impact positions in a consistent manner, it's very hard to get accurate data. But I am looking forward to testing it out a little bit more back home because, yes, it may perform on a nice warm day in Florida, but can it stand up to a northern winter? That's the question. I've also been sending these through, and this is going to be an interesting one because this is a unknown manufacturer to many people. So it's either Forte or Forte. I'm not sure how it's meant to be pronounced. I think it's Forte. And this is a 6-piece ball. And this comes to the market, I think it's about $66 for a 6-piece construction. And it's just nice to see these smaller manufacturers start to get in on the action as well, because it's going to be quite nice to test out this ball with a big manufacturer behind it making lots and lots of claims, and something like this, which is a smaller manufacturer who say this does everything that does. I've also got some of the Vice balls to test out, which I'm going to be looking forward to as well, and hopefully soon I can get hold of some of the Kirkland signature balls that Costco are selling. I think the ball market is going to get a little bit more interesting this year. Now, last thing I'm going to talk about today is something which is happening here in the UK. I'm not sure if it's happening elsewhere in the world, but it is something which is causing growing anxiety within the golf industry here at home. Now, what I'm talking about is American Golf, which is a golf superstore over here in the UK. They are having a double trade-in offer, which is currently running in stores and has been running in stores for I think a couple of months now. Now what they're doing is they're offering customers double trade-in value. So if you bring in a club which is worth £100, say, they will double up the value to £200, which you can then put against the purchase of a new club. Now what they're doing is they're not just limiting this at, say, bringing in a driver, getting a trade-in value for that. They're actually letting you bring in multiples of clubs to up in the amount of credit that you have within store, so you can then use that on clubs. Now, if you're listening to this and you think this sounds a little bit silly, it is. So here's how this works, and I'll read this word for word. Valuations can only be given in an American Golf store, where the PGA.com will be used as a guide to the value of clubs with an exchange rate of $1.5 to £1. So if I go on valueguide.pga.com, I can get a rough estimate of what I will be able to trade in to get some new clubs. So we can have an example. Here's what I'll do. I will take my clubs which I had 3 years ago, so before I started doing all the YouTube stuff properly. So what I had 3 years ago, what the value of those clubs would be now, and then what I could expect to get for that money if I went into an American Golf store. But times that by two, and it's left me with $658. Now I need to use the exchange rate to get that back into pounds. So that'll leave me with 440 quid. Well, just under 438.6 recurring. So let's say 440 quid. So I could walk into an American Golf store with all my old clubs from 3 years ago and get £440 worth of credit to spend on new gear. Now, if I was to get the whole shebang again, so irons, from wedges, drivers, all the rest of it, I'd obviously have to add to that if I was going to the top end of the market. So I could walk out of there with a grand's worth of equipment and only just spent over half of what it was worth. Now that sounds like it's a fantastic deal for the consumer, and it is. There's people who've been going into American Golf, trading in their old equipment, which wasn't really that old and it was still okay, buying new stuff and then selling the new stuff on eBay for a profit. Now, obviously, something there is fundamentally broken, and it also raises a much bigger problem. Because what people have been doing is, yes, taking their clubs in, yes, getting double trading, getting fantastic deals on new clubs, but those clubs are then left with American Golf to try and sell on as second-hand product. And because they've been giving everyone this double trade-in discount on the second-hand clubs, all the profits are tied up in the second-hand equipment. And a lot of people have been taking advantage of this offer, a hell of a lot of people. So within the next few months, American Golf are going to find themselves with a lot of money tied up in second-hand products which people have already gotten rid of to get their hands on new equipment. We could be heading to a situation where one of the biggest golf retailers in the UK puts themselves under severe strain because of what has happened here. Now, potentially, obviously that's a problem for American golf, which may become apparent, it may not. Obviously, that's just speculation. But one thing is happening right now, and it is a big problem for the grassroots pro. Because this is such a good deal, a lot of people have been taking their business away from the club pros, taking it to American golf because they know with this deal and with American golf's generally low prices, they can get some very new equipment for very little money. Although this may cause a problem for American golf somewhere over here, it's causing a massive problem for the club pros in the here and now because a lot of their custom is being taken away. Now, I think this is an example of partly why the golf equipment industry at this moment in time is facing massive challenges. Would I go as far to say it is fundamentally flawed? Potentially. We've had warning shots within the last few years, such as Dick's Sporting Goods in the US, which has to make massive structural changes, fire a lot of staff because of the way that the golf manufacturing industry is structured. A lot of companies bringing out lots of new clubs in shorter time periods, meaning that the things which are on the shelves for a year are redundant after that 365-day period. There are only a few manufacturers such as Ping who really stick to product cycles which are longer than a year. Now, the reason I've framed the argument like this is because for a green grass professional who is trying to shift clubs, if you imagine that they have bought last year's clubs, let's use TaylorMade for example as well. They've bought last year's clubs, so the M1, the M2, and they've got quite a few in stock. They know that the new M1 and the M2 stuff is coming in the early part of next year. So they're trying to get rid of this stuff before the new stuff comes in. The only problem is this new stuff isn't shifting because everyone's taken their business and given it over in the most part to an American golf who are doing this double deal trading. Now, from an American golf standpoint, they might say, well, we've got that custom. Great, what a fantastic marketing ploy. But it's killing the green grass pro and it's going to really affect them later on down the line. And all in this time frame, this pro is sat here with all these clubs saying, well, I've got all this new stuff coming in. How am I going to get rid of this? How am I going to afford to get this stuff in? It's all a bit of a mess. Now, this is a problem, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. I've spoken to a lot of people who are having a lot of problems with hardware, not only because of this American golf offer, but because of the way that the industry is fundamentally structured now. But as always, let me know what you think. Have you taken advantage of this double trading deal? What deals did you get? What clubs did you get in return for your tradings? Let everyone know your experiences and what you found. If you are a green grass retailer, please comment in the box below. If you are someone involved in the golf industry, let me know what you think because this could become one of those big problems and it certainly needs highlighting a little bit more. And also comment below, what do you think the answers are? We could have longer product cycles. I think that would give retailers that little bit more of a breathing space to actually sell clubs on. But have we got a bigger issue as far as the big manufacturers here have started to push up against the legal limits and they can't go much further? So the clubs that they bring out time after time again, the difference in performance from last year's models is getting less and less and less. It's a very interesting question and I'd love to know your thoughts. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Please comment. As always, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and follow me on my other social media platforms, which are all linked in the description below. Right guys, we'll see you next time.